What's up, y'all? Welcome to Dead Talks. This is David Ferrugio. Really quickly, before we get into the show, I want to introduce today's guest, Joe Exotic. A lot of you may be familiar with him if you watch the show Tiger King, and this conversation is a little bit more unique. It's going to be a more personal side of Joe. I'm not here to talk about all the public stuff that you may or may not that is going on with him. I'm here to tap into the conversation around death and grief. We talked about his current health situation, that he has cancer right now, along with the grief he's experienced, one of which, if you watch the show again, you're very familiar with when he lost his partner Travis in a very tragic way. We talk about his parents a little bit at the end and a partner that he lost prior. So it's a very real conversation. Again, maybe a side they're not used to hearing Joe talk about, which is really cool to tap into. And you may not know, Joe is in prison right now. And if you do, you know, but this conversation was cut a little bit short. It was only about a 20-30 minute conversation, as we only had 15 minutes at a time to talk to him from a recorded line at prison. So we try to make the best of it. It was a very cool dialogue, and it was very cool to hear a different side of him. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something about Joe, and maybe you'll take something else about the process of grief, and that is death and what the show is all about. As usual, thank you for being here. If you're interested in supporting the show, please check out the Patreon link, $5 a month. I'm going to be adding some really cool exclusive content in there if you want to support the show and get some new things. Anyway, let's get into it. Joe Exotic, Dead Talks. Thank you. The following conversation was recorded with Joe Exotic with his full knowledge and consent. The views and opinions expressed are solely his and do not necessarily reflect those of Dead Talks Podcast or its host. Nothing in this episode should be taken as legal advice, factual findings, or endorsements regarding his case. Awesome. All right, yeah, so just to get started, I would love for you to fill us in on how you're feeling. So I know with your diagnosis with cancer and all that, I'm sure you're going through a lot, but what's the latest with that situation?
Well, I just did another PET scan about a month ago, waiting on the results from that to come back. And my PET scan a year and a half ago showed, prostate cancer and a tumor in my left lung, and lesions on my kidney, and a tumor on my right, a tumor on my right kidney, and lesions on my liver. But now they think because my PSA level is rising and it's not in my prostate, they actually think that it's moved to my rib bones. So we're waiting, or we're just waiting.
Understood. I mean, I guess in that situation, that's all you can do. But how's your headspace? How you feeling?
Good. I got several good things to keep fighting for. I want to get out. I want to go to Mexico and reunite with George. And I truly think Trump will help me eventually. I'm on appeal again, so we'll see how that goes. And I just filed a lawsuit. Which, if I win, should prove that they have to drop 18 charges. So I got a lot going because my goal is to get out of here and make a difference.
I love that. Yeah, I'm sure you want to be sensitive with what you can talk about with that situation, but you're feeling confident?
Yeah, I really do. They got a world television and admitted to perjury. So, how can you not accept that? I still don't understand why I'm here after they got on season 2 of Tiger King and admitted that they all lied and they fabricated evidence. And then Alan Glover takes them to the zoo and shows them how he was going to kill me.
There's proof that he was going to kill you?
On season, have you not watched season 2 of Tiger King?
No, I did. I'm forgetful of that specific detail, to be honest.
He took them to the zoo and showed them in the woods where he had a murder weapon where they were going to kill me.
What is that like?
Well, that was a shock.
This call is from a federal prison.
But what's even a bigger shock is why the hell is the Department of Justice not caring about this?
And why do you think that is?
I think it's because they don't want to lose this conviction and they don't want egg on their face because they have 2 federal FBI agents and a federal wildlife agent and a U.S. prosecutor that all knew this was fake, and they covered up some pretty horrendous crimes that Jeff and James was doing in order to pull this off for Carol. There's recording there of Jeff and Lauren admitting to raping girls at the zoo, which is exactly what was going on. They were drugging them at night and raping them, luring them in with baby tigers. And then, James stealing people's identities and making false credit cards. James and Jeff would sit in office for hours and hours every day, running up charge cards on Wayfair and Bowflex and Care Credit, stealing people's identities. It was insane. And that's why they don't want this in a new trial. That's why they don't want me out, because when I get out, some people are going to jail.
So how do you mitigate that when with all the information you just told me, and your perspective on how things have been going, when you're just sitting there idle?
I've got some pretty influential people out there working on this with me. I got Congressman Boebert, Congresswoman Boebert, excuse me, Congressman Eric Burlington. I got Alex Stein. I've got, I do live radio shows every week, pounding the pavement on this. And, I've got lawyers that have contacts with a lot of political people. So we're getting there. I truly believe that we're getting there.
Well, it's glad to hear your morale's up. You sound pretty good. Considering you're going through a lot right now. So I appreciate your time that you're even giving me. And a big thing with this conversation. Obviously, you have a lot going on with, trying to get out of there and whatnot. I was hoping people could see even a different light of you in regards to the conversation that I talk about with this podcast when it comes with grief and death. And I obviously know you put a lot of your story out there publicly, but I'm not sure I've seen too much of hearing more about your experience of the people that you've lost in your life. I know you lost a couple partners. I know with Brian and Travis, I believe. So if we could tap into that, maybe people could see a different side of your experiences. What has your experience been losing people like that?
I think that's probably the most disgusting part about what people took away from Tiger King. Because Brian, God rest his soul, we were together 16 years. And when I first started building that zoo in 99 to 2001, he was on hospice, laying in the house dying. And then one night his pain got so bad that I called for an ambulance, and the local ambulance service would not come get him because he was dying of AIDS. So I had to call another city, and another city came and got him and took him to Oklahoma City. And then when I get to the emergency room, the doctor is treats me like I just took my dog to have it euthanized. He's like, well, if I give him this pain shot, he's going to die. And I'm like, he weighs 92 pounds, man. He hasn't talked in a week. He's suffering. Give him the damn pain shot. But they gave him a pain shot, and they admitted him, and he made it through the night. So they called me to come get him because his niece stayed with them overnight because I had to go back to the zoo because I had a house full of animals. And I went and got him the next morning, picked him up, wheeled him out the emergency room door and picked him up, put him in the car, and he died in my arms. So, the worst part of that whole scenario, then we had to sit in the parking lot with a sheet over him until the funeral home got there because they wouldn't let me back in the hospital with a dead body because he was on hospice. So, that was the story, with Brian, God rest his soul. And then, Travis, I watched the surveillance videotape of the office, the gift shop where Travis died, because I had to know whether or not it was on purpose or whether it was an accident, and I bought him a 45 semi-automatic handgun and an AR for his birthday, a couple years before that. And he played with them guns, and he spent all day long at the river shooting tannerite and blowing shit up, I never thought a thing about it, And one morning I woke up and he was in the backyard in a blow-up swimming pool that we were using for Jello wrestling at the bar. And he was out there playing with his dogs in the water at 6 o'clock in the morning. Gave him a kiss, said, I love you. He said, I love you. I went to work and took my limo into town to get it fixed. I wasn't gone 20 minutes.
This call is from a federal prison.
Travis shot himself. And I was like, well, how bad? Because he always kept it in his crotch. And I kept telling him, one day you're going to blow your dick off. And they said, well, he didn't make it. And I said, what do you mean he didn't make it? He shot himself. So I rushed back to the zoo, and I get to the zoo, and they got crime scene tape up. The ambulance is there. The police are there. The coroner's there. Fucking everybody's there. They wouldn't let me in the gift shop. So Rinky came from Texas to take care of everything. And at the end of it, when they were ready to remove his body from the gift shop, I wanted to see his body before they took it away. And the sheriff that covered up all this shit for James and Alan during my trial, Sheriff Rhodes, said, you can't see his body. And I was like, bullshit, he's my legal fucking husband. You ain't gonna stop me from seeing my husband's body before you take it away from me. And he wouldn't let me. And I had to get on the phone and call Governor Fallon with the state of Oklahoma. And Governor Fallon called the sheriff. And within a minute and a half, they let me in there to see him. So they zipped the body back down to his chest. I got to say goodbye. And then I helped carry the stretcher out to the coroner's car. And then I watched the videotape because I wanted to make sure that he really didn't do it on purpose. And he was sitting at the desk, going through the secretary's purse looking for candy. My campaign manager, Josh, was sitting 8 feet away from him. And he looks at his phone, and he sets his phone down, and he takes the clip out of the gun and makes Josh a bet that the one in the chamber wouldn't go off. And he was stupid enough to put it to his head and it went off. And out of Tiger King, all of the people that write letters and everything else, he was so bad with meth and he killed himself because he was gay. And that's all bullshit, man. When especially his parents disappoint me more than anything because his dad kicked him out, right? And he was living homeless under a bridge in California when I met him. And the way I met him was he had a female friend that came to work for me that knew him and said, hey, I have this guy friend out in California that's really bad addicted to meth, and he's homeless, and he needs a job and a place to stay. So we got him a bus ticket, and he came to Oklahoma, cleaned him up. He became the most amazing person I ever knew. And, we hit it off, moved in together, got married, and, all of the bad, slang and comments and bullshit out there, people need to respect people's depth a little bit more than they do nowadays. It's pretty pathetic.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you sharing that and that's why I wanted you to hear firsthand because things can get really convoluted the way the media portrays it. And I think we're about to come up on that 15 minutes. So
we're about to get cut off. It just beeped again. But hey, I'll call you at 4:30 and we'll pick this back up.
Hey, you're the man. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you again. All right, round 2, brother. We're back. Thanks again.
Hey, while we were on that subject, did you watch the Ghost Hunters episode?
The Ghost Hunters episode? No, I did not.
About the zoo?
No, I missed that one.
It's like the biggest fake piece of crap I've ever seen. And Ghost Hunters goes into the zoo with Jeff Lowe and looks for dead bodies and ghosts and spirits, and then they made a mockery out of Travis, saying that Travis's ghost walked the zoo and all this bullshit.
Oh, no
shit. But the sad part about what everybody's done for fame and money, and they forgot the entire moral of that zoo. That zoo was a memorial park, okay, not only for my brother, but for 151 other people. And people all over the world built big cages, the cages for the animals that they sponsored in memory of people that they've lost. And there's 3 people's ashes buried underneath their exhibits. And that's the saddest part that I think about every day. I think about how that place is a ghost town and they trashed it. And here lays these 3 innocent people's remains that truly their family truly believed in the purpose of that zoo. And if Ghost Hunters was anywhere legit, they would have picked up on the fact that there were people literally buried at that zoo.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part with your experience. You're so public and in your life, and especially when it comes to the death of the people we just previously discussed. How has that affected you? I know you tapped into that, but how does that affect your process when things are misinterpreted and they express things in a way that is not the way you're feeling or whether the true story? So how does that affect your grief process, doing it so public?
Well, it helps to a point. My mom and dad have died since all of this started too. And I missed their funerals. I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to talk to them or anything before they died. It's kind of like they just, took an airplane trip and it crashed in the ocean and never saw them again. So that's one of my goals. The very first thing I do when I get out of here is I want to go find where they're buried and pay my respects to my parents. Because, through all of the difficult childhood, my mom and dad were still my number one fans. And, but that's what motivates me and drives me to make it through all this is I want to get out of here and tell the true story of just how fucked up this whole situation is and what people did for money.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify. So obviously you have a lot of different motivating factors. So which one of these seems to be motivating you the most of what you want to accomplish when you get out?
Well, I mean, one of the first things I want to do is I want to go find where my mom and dad are buried and pay my respects. And, because no matter how bad childhood was, my mom and dad turned out to be my biggest fans. But that's what motivates me to make it through this hell that I'm living. Is I want to get out and I want to tell the true story of everything that Jew meant, everything that really happened at that Jew, everything that we did for people, and explain to the world how fucked up people got over 15 minutes of fame and money to desecrate so many people's memorials.
So what do you feel the most during all this? Because, obviously we talked about the deaths you've experienced, but there's a sense of grief of missing out on so many different things of life. So what part of it, what do you feel the most from this? Are you angry?
I was at first, but I'm pretty much over that part. It's coming to prison is almost like the stages of grief. You get angry and then you get sad and then you get depressed, you get lonely, all of that. But I could walk out of here and never talk about all of these people that did this to me ever again. After I be able to tell my story when I'm out, I'm washing my hands of it all, and I'm going to move on because, regardless what anybody can say, came to prison, I've been through cancer treatment, and I'm still fighting cancer, but all I can do is hope and pray. I got married to one of the most amazing men I've ever met, and looking forward to going to Mexico and starting a whole new life and putting this all behind me.
And how did you do that? I know you're in a situation where you have a lot of time in your hands to think, and I think that's what a lot of people avoid when they're on the outside. They try to avoid those thoughts and the ability to process it. So what goes through your head to be able to let go of this when you get out of here?
It's just when I was in solitary for 2 years and 8 months, and I don't know if you know how difficult that is, but I prayed to God that my heart would stop every day of my life for 2 years and 8 months, and locked in a 6 by 10, 12 foot room, concrete room by yourself, but nobody but you and God, and you learn that all of that material bullshit and holding on to grudges and stuff just ain't worth it, and that's why I have the motivation and the outlook that walk out of here, I'm done with it. I'm moving on. Those people.
This call is from a federal prison.
Those people will never be better than me. Those people will never rent space in my head. Because I intend on being somebody. And that's where, in the political side of me, people are like, I can't believe you support Trump because you're gay. Who cares? But if that man can become president of the United States with 34 conviction of felonies and 94 indictments, I can walk out of here tomorrow with just clemency as time served and be a felon, and I'm still going to become somebody. I'm not going to be one of these losers that have to leech off of the reputation of someone else like Jeff Lowe and James does every day. I mean, Jesus Christ, I've been in jail. September will be 8 years. And they still live for me every day. Tiger King, it's Joe Exotic. It's like, God damn, go get a life.
Yeah, and it seems like, you've obviously, there seems to be some sort of transformation. I just want to hear from you. Have you felt like during these 8 years you have transformed for the better, and how so?
Well, I don't know if it would be really called transformed, as, I did a lot of charity work, out in the free world when I had that zoo. I did Tigers for Tots, I did toy drives, I granted last wishes. I opened that zoo up every holiday for free for people who didn't have anywhere to go. I cooked every holiday meal for people who didn't have anywhere to go. I fed the homeless downtown on the streets of Oklahoma City every holiday. What it done was it made me sit and realize that what I'd done with people that were nobody and had nothing made me a whole lot happier than trying to rub elbows and become somebody with the people that really don't give a shit about nobody else. And I've done shows with, Alan Jackson, Trick Pony, and people that I met like Dwight Yoakam. I used to look up to Dwight Yoakam and I'd done a show with him. And he's probably one of the biggest chauvinist assholes I ever met in my life. And the lady that I fed Christmas night, sleeping under a tarp on a sidewalk in Oklahoma City, treated me with a hell of a lot more respect than Dwight Yoakam ever did.
Yeah, it's again, this is a little bit of a back to what we were talking about, how the media portrays certain things. To me personally, from what I've seen and from what you're telling me, it just seems like a different angle of Joe Exotic that maybe we don't get. And I was always mesmerized about what you endured in regards to these experiences that we just talked about, the people that you lost in your life. And, it changes you. Like, when going through those experiences, you had two people literally essentially die in your arms. So it has to change you. So with those experiences, what does it do to you? How do you see it?
It does. Life, look, Brian died at 32. My brother died at 32. And let me tell you, when my brother died, it was hell because, he was on life support for 7 days. And I had to go through the argument and convincing my mom and dad that he was dead. And then I had to, the worst part about that nobody really knows the truth about out there is when my brother was on life support, we were in Corsicana, Texas, in a little hospital. Okay, and they kept saying he was brain dead. He was brain dead. Okay, and then they wanted him to be an organ donor at that hospital, and I was like, "Oh hell no! You're not gonna convince me that he's brain dead in this hospital. That you let him lay here and let his brain swell without doing anything." I said, so I got on the phone and I called Baylor Hospital in Dallas, and I made them a deal. I said, look. If you fly a helicopter down there and get my brother and fly him to Baylor, and you let me see the test while you're doing them to prove to me that my brother's dead, I will donate his organs. And they flew a helicopter down there, and honest to God, David, when that helicopter, when it was sitting in the parking lot, when they wheeled my brother out of that helicopter, or out of that emergency room into that helicopter,
what?
Spiderwebs fell all over that helicopter from nowhere. Okay, and they flew him to Dallas, proved to me that he was dead, and I signed the paper. I convinced his wife to donate his organs because that's what Gil would have done. And I signed the papers with her to donate his organs. And do you know nobody took those two little boys of his? They were only like 4 and 6 years old. It was 4 and 7 years old at the time. Nobody took them in there to say goodbye to their dad except Joe. And then come after all of this happened, everybody's calling me a liar. But when I walked the whole thing with my brother to give his organs away, and then I got to meet the guy that got his heart and became real good friends with them. I'm a whole different person than anybody ever thought I was. And they're going to hear the real story. But man, this thing's going to hang up again.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.